Welcome to Round the World Women. My name is Patchanee Malikhao, host of this program. Sitting with me here today are Louise Reilly and Alice Swift. Louise is the president of Town Committee for International Students, and Alice is the secretary of the same organization. They have been involving in Round the World Women since the early 80s, so please welcome them to the program. Hi, Louise, and hi, Alice. So I would like to know about the history of Round the World Women. So whom should tell me about it?
I could start. I would say it was started back in the mid-60s when a couple of women committed suicide. They were wives of foreign students, and the understanding was that they were just very lonely. They were from other Asian countries, and it became recognized that there were other women of this kind. You know, their wives were graduate students or visiting scholars or something. And the women may have spoken very little English, and they were isolated in their apartments. So programs were started really by Peggy Gage and Eleanor Singleton that were, Peggy led conversation groups for the women to come together and practice speaking English and get to know each other and have sociability. And Louise took, Louise, Eleanor took them on trips to various places. I don't know what kinds of trips. Okay. And that was the beginning of Round the World Women back around 1966.
1960s.
So, yes.
So it started from individual interest.
Yes.
For Eleanor and Peggy.
Yes.
And then how it got involved into an organization like it is today.
Well, it slowly evolved and came to a point where they decided they needed a program to hand out to the women so that they would know what was going on. And the program became more detailed over time. And here's a program as it is today.
Right.
And it has useful phone numbers, useful contact places, names of drivers, and also a list of the programs. Originally, or not originally, I should say, when I became involved in the early 80s, there were 2 programs a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and there was a sort of a hierarchy of planning. There was one person who was overall head of Round the World Women, then there was a Tuesday supervisor and a Thursday supervisor, and under those, people who organize the monthly programs.
I see. So the purpose of this program was still the same as what Eleanor and Peggy started, to help them with get acquainted with the English and the culture. So are there anything else to the program?
Well, the originally, well, I guess it's still pretty much the case. At the beginning of the year, the programs are pretty much orientational in nature. Going to a grocery store to see where to buy products, and many stores now have international aisles, so you can go there. To go to the police station, learn that the American police are your friend. You go to the University Health Service, because many of the people are associated with the university. Just all kind of, what kind of clothing your children are going to need, for instance.
I see.
All kinds of programs like that, practical programs. Then later on in the year, they're a little more frivolous. They're coffee with drivers. We have cooking programs, holiday programs, making valentines, carving pumpkins, making wreaths, that sort of thing. Or trips to see the bulb shows. Or at the end of the year, we go to Sturbridge Village, which is a wonderful program. Everyone loves that. And at the very end, we have a wonderful picnic where everyone brings food from their own culture to share. And one of the very popular programs, too, is sharing pictures from home or information about your own culture. And Coffee with Drivers is also very popular because they get into an American home.
I see. These programs are focused only, or aimed for only wives of the scholars in those days. Right?
Yes, the men were busy. I mean, they, particularly in the beginning, it was only men who came, well, generally, from, to study as graduate students, and if they brought a wife, then the wife usually was at home either by herself or with children, and the wives were the ones who needed the programs as a way to get out and to make friends and to learn more about our culture while their husbands were busy. Now things have changed, and there certainly are lots of women who come as graduate students, but they're not so likely to participate. And we don't accept men in the program even if they want to, because there are women who would be uncomfortable with men in and their husbands would be uncomfortable too
because of
if
the
they were
culture.
men.
Yes.
But the programs are aimed at wives, and it used to be called Round the World Wives,
Oh,
and then it
okay.
changed to Round the World Women,
Oh, it sounds better.
because they're not just
Yeah,
wives,
just
but they were just wives in the
partners
beginning.
and okay.
Yes.
So now the wives are becoming scholars themselves.
Yes,
As
yes.
I see.
Sometimes they are.
Yes,
Sometimes,
right.
yes,
Okay, so that's the name, Round the World Women.
yes.
All right. And how did you get involved, Louise?
I became, in the early 80s, I became a driver. Friends of mine asked me if I'd be a substitute driver, which I was maybe for 2 programs, and then I became hooked, as most drivers do, and was a driver. And I should point out that all the programs are, we have volunteer drivers, and in the early days we had bigger cars and no seatbelt laws, so babies could sit on laps and so on, so we could transport more women. Nowadays, that's not so much the case. So we always need new drivers and more drivers.
So, so drivers, you are not just driving, right? So what else do you do?
Well, the drivers help to plan the program at the end of the year. We plan for the next year. We discuss what programs worked, which we should maybe put aside for a year or two. And so they meet 2 or 3 times a year working on the programs, put together the booklet.
I see.
And they run the programs.
And
Well, they run the
they run the
programs, yes, I'm
programs.
sorry, yes.
Yeah.
Well, as I
Okay.
mentioned in that hierarchy,
Right.
we have people who each month, there's a person who plans the program, gets in touch with
You have
the people that, if you're going to the planetarium, say, you need to get in touch with the person who's
I
going
see.
to be there.
coordinator.
Yeah, a coordinator.
Oh, see,
exactly.
I see. So you are not just a driver who driving people. So
Yes.
you chat with them along the
Yes.
way there. You organize a program for them. You explain them the culture.
Yes.
And you also teach English, right? So now it
A
comes
little
to Alice's specialty about your tutoring program. How did you get involved?
I got involved in 1974 when my husband had a sabbatical in Cambridge, England, and our whole family went to Cambridge, and I met a Japanese woman and who had a child in one of my son's classes, and I had a 3-year-old turning 4, and by the close to the end of the year, he was going to preschool every morning, and she came to me and said in very halting English, "Now that you have time, would you teach me English, or would you help me with my English?" So I thought, well, I don't know anything about helping somebody with English, but she had a lot of questions, and I could see that it was about 6 weeks that I met with her once a week, and she had questions and I could answer them. So when we came back to Amherst in September, I thought that this would be a wonderful thing to do here, and finally my children were all in school. So I looked around, and I found out that this program, which was associated with Round the World Women, existed. It had been started by Lee Banky. She and her husband had been in the Peace Corps teaching English, and her husband was then at Amherst College, and so she had started this tutoring program. And then they moved away, and I think there was another person involved, but so I was asked if I would continue the
right.
program. So I ran the program from about 1976 until the early 90s maybe. I really enjoyed it. It was, but it.
I see. So it was run in parallel with the Round the World Women.
Yes.
So as
yes.
part of offering the English skills to the women who don't have a basic skills.
It was for basic English.
I
yes.
see. So your tutoring means that you talking to them entirely in English, like as a second language.
Yes, English is a second language.
I see.
And people always said to me, "Well, I'd like to tutor, but I don't know another language." And I said, "No, you don't need to know another language."
Right.
And I organized the program. I found volunteers. I trained them, gave them, booklet, books to use if
I
they
see,
wanted it,
textbooks. I see.
textbook kinds of things, and taught them about dealing with people from other cultures. And
you and the other volunteers, you go from house to house to give them lessons?
You would meet with your student, called a tutee, once a week for about 2 hours, and it was either at the home of the student or at the home of the tutor, whichever was more convenient, or it could be someplace else, but it was better in a home. Usually the tutor went to the tutee's home.
So how did it get stopped?
Well, sometime in the 90s, it became apparent that there wasn't the need that there had been earlier. The women who came here generally had learned English in their home country, and they had learned enough that they weren't that the basic tutoring wasn't enough. They needed either a class or somebody who had higher skills. But in the beginning, the women were often women who had studied English in their home country, but they just hadn't had a chance to practice speaking, and they'd never heard English spoken.
Right.
So they really benefited from the one-on-one.
I see. So you said before there was like one-on-one and a group, right, Louise? You know that? Before, like a group, conversation group?
Yes, it sort of evolved into a group situation where there were more groups and no more individual tutors.
Yeah.
I see.
Sometime probably in the 80s, I recognized that there were women who whose English was more than for the basic English, the basic tutoring, but they would benefit just from practice in speaking English. So I did organize conversation groups, which went on for quite a while.
And now the library
now the library has them.
I see.
It's a real service because it's a good thing. Yeah.
Wow. So that's the benefits of being a member of Round the World Women. So you can have English lesson as well, and now you could go and get free lessons from the library. Correct?
Well, anyone could go to the library, and the tutoring program was available to anyone. It was mostly women who were associated with Round the World Women, and that was how they heard about it. But it also served a few other people, women who from overseas who were married to Americans and moved here.
I see. Very good. And I heard that Round the World Women is the main focus of the bigger organization, which is called Amherst Town Committee for International Students. Could you explain a little bit what kind of activities your organization runs? Yeah.
Well, we do. We're sort of an umbrella organization for the programs, and we have the Round the World Women, which is our major focus. We have a reception for the new incoming students in the fall, and then we have a hospitality program. And when I got involved in the early 80s, not only did I start driving for Round the World Women, but I got involved with planning the reception for the incoming students. And we used to have it at the Bang Center. We even had face painting for the children at that time. It's gotten a little simpler as time has gone on, but now in recent years we've gone to the Women's Club. We meet at the Women's Club in the end of August when the students arrive. They have a bus tour of Amherst, and then they are dropped off at the Women's Club, and we have people from the Chamber of Commerce. We have Rotarians and other civic people. We have the town manager, somebody from the select board. Ellen Story comes every year. She's very faithful. Okay. We all know her story about when she lived in the Netherlands.
I see.
And sometimes Stan Rosenberg comes.
I see.
So and the students are so appreciative. They're so impressed.
This is very warm welcoming of Amherst Town.
It's a and they've had quick tour of the area.
I see.
So this is their introduction, and we do that every year.
Oh, right.
And I've been doing it pretty much almost with a few years off, but every year since the early 80s.
Very kind, very hospitable.
So you asked about that, and then we do have the hospitality program. So Alice can tell you about that.
Tell about
yes, I was one of the people who have run the program at one point. I mean, with other people, but the hospitality program is mostly for foreign international students who would like to have the opportunity to get into a home and meet some Americans. And so the Americans also are interested in meeting the international students. So they're paired up according to their interests and that kind of thing. And the hosts invite the student over for a meal or to go to an event or just go for a walk in the woods or something. And they get to know each other, and sometimes the students get very busy and aren't interested and they stop, but sometimes the relationship really lasts a long time and they continue to see each other, and the hosts, it may develop into a relationship like an aunt or uncle or something.
Oh, how nice.
And it's very nice. And maybe even after the students go back to their country, the hosts may go and visit them.
Continues.
So it was run by somebody for quite a while, and then she couldn't continue, and it was too good a program to let it go. So the three of us got together and said, well, we'll do it. And so
three of you who are there?
Well, it was Louise, it was Carol Gelbach, and I can't remember now exactly. Oh, I know who it was. I can't think of her name, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
But anyway, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's better not to struggle with it.
Right, okay.
And so we ran it for a while. Julie Marcus.
Okay.
And so we ran it for a while, and then somebody else took it over, and so on.
And it's
but
still up and running?
It's still running, yes. And it's a great program because it is a chance for these international students to get into American homes and to meet people and talk and ask questions, and it's really mutually beneficial because the hosts really usually enjoy it too. But it's the one thing we always have to say is it's not a live-in program. The students do not live with the hosts.
Oh, okay.
They just
from
visit
time to time,
from time to time.
I see.
Yes.
So how is the Roundabout Women distinguishedly different from the other programs that the Amherst Town Committee for International Students offer?
Well, I just wanted to add to the about the host family. Michael and Tina Behrens have been doing it for a very long time, and they've just turned over the reins to Ruth Harms. So, and she's been a host forever. But the main focus is Round the World Women because it's the most consistent in terms of number of programs throughout the year, and the greater number of volunteers over time also. And the cost of the programs is greater because we often have to pay a rental fee to a space that we're using. We may use buses, we have to pay for that. So if we're having a cooking program, we have to pay for the
materials,
food. Yes, so we do have expenses. So the major focus of our fundraising, which we do once a year, is that, and we're hoping our budget this year will be, for all the programs, around $3,000.
For the 9 months a year of the old activities of Roundabout Women?
Exactly. Well, also the other two as well. The host family program doesn't incur a lot of expenses, but they do have some, and then we do have some for the program at the beginning of the year, the introductory program. We have expenses. We have the bus tour, we have to pay for the buses, and we have to pay for the rental of the house, and so on. So we do have some expenses, and most of the people who contribute are people who've lived abroad. They understand what it's like to be lonely and the need to be welcomed to a new place.
I see. So the purpose of the program is like to let the women pay as little as possible,
or
they don't pay anything?
No, they
don't need to pay anything.
No.
It's free.
It's absolutely free.
The purpose is to help these people coming from other countries to enjoy being here, to understand our culture, to make friends, we're like ambassadors of goodwill or something.
That's a noble cause.
And you see people, like women who are from countries that may be at loggerheads, but they can be good friends here. So it's really just, it gives me a warm feeling to think about it, that it's a way of introducing, of helping people to enjoy being with Americans and then to see the good points about our country, to feel welcome.
So you still have a problem with fundraising to get money in order to
it's
entertain?
Always a struggle with everything.
It's always a problem.
But yes, we try hard, and sometimes once in a while somebody will apply for a grant and we'll get it, and then the next year we don't. We just never quite know. It's kind of in flux. We never know how many people we're going to be serving. So this year we had a lot of women. It was 70 or 75 women.
Yeah.
So another year it might be 50. It's very hard to tell. So some of the expenses, of course, are less if you have fewer people. But yes, we always always need money, I guess is what we should
It
say.
occurred to me there were a couple of things that we thought we might mention, and one is that the town committee for a long time tried to establish an international center, which would have, it might be a place where people lived, but it would be a place where international people, where there'd be programs and so on. Like, I think it was Brown University that has a nice one. Anyway, that was one thing which we hoped for but never happened. And one thing we did have was a loan closet that had furniture that people, that the international visitors could borrow.
So
if
it's
they
going to be a center where they can come and get help, or what?
Oh, well, the center was a different, the loan closet is totally different from the center, but the center would be a place where there could be programs and there could be, groups could meet.
I see. So there where the activities could be run from there.
A focus of international programs and activities in town.
Okay, separately from the International Program Office of UMass, right? So
right, yes. That's another distinction that we wanted to make, that the Amherst Town Committee is not a town government organization. It's a private organization, but it also is separate from the university. That it's coordinated with the International Programs Office, and we get a lot of help from them. But it's not it's not associated with the university. There used to be a lot of churches involved too.
I see. So now come back to Round the World Women, where you have been involved for a long while. What did you benefit from getting involved with such an international organization like this?
Oh, for me personally. Well, it's magic in some ways. As Alice mentioned, it's very moving to see women from very diverse cultures, or even, as she said, combative cultures, getting along. They're just people. And they have children. They have the same issues with their children, and the same illnesses, those kinds of things. And many, many women have remained friends when they've gone back to their own country. In fact, one woman, I think, went back to Japan and started a similar program in her university town.
Yes, and I've gotten to know, I mean, I tutored for a long time, and you really create quite a bond with the women that you're tutoring. I mean, you get to know them very well. And
you still keep contact and so on.
I did for a long time, and then I had to stop, but there are two Japanese women that I still am in contact with, and one of them started a tutoring program in Japan. And but it's meeting all these interesting people from around the world. It's really a wonderful thing. It's the program is really very good.
So both of you would like to continue volunteering as far as you could?
Yes.
All right.
We regret that there aren't some more younger women that have the time to become volunteers. Because they really are missing a wonderful opportunity.
So we'd like to use this opportunity to call for more volunteers, young blood to come and help and move it along.
If we have time to say one more thing, I don't know how our time is doing, but these international visitors are what make Amherst such an interesting place to live.
Yes.
I mean, for those of us who are residents in Amherst, that without the international visitors, our town would be quite different. Not nearly as interesting. So that's one reason we welcome them. I mean, that's one thing we say in the fall at the reception, that we really welcome them because they make it a special place.
Okay. Thank you so much, Alice and Louise. And I appreciate your time. I would like to thank the Amherst Media for hosting this wonderful episode. And thank you for your interest.